It's not something that you're born with. I think discipline, luckily for everyone, is a skill. What would be the best business model to start, or what would kind of be the best thing an entrepreneur can do is, what I would say to Fedi is just be whatever persona you want to have. And you just develop those skills along the way. If you look at it as kind of a 5-step process, let's say, right? You want all 5 steps to be finished. This one didn't do so well on the click-through rate. So what do I need to improve? My thumbnail and title. That's only used to change the decision I make for the next video. So as you can see, this is my YouTube ideas folder.
I need to hear Auntie's quote.
I have a very special guest, my new friend, Fetti. He is an inspiring young man, someone that has pushed me to be better in all aspects of my life. He is a young entrepreneur. In this episode, we talk about his entrepreneurship journey, the way that he's approaching his YouTube content creation at the moment. And I just wanted to say, before we start the episode, my camera was acting funny during this whole episode. So if you see my camera just being all laggy and funny, that is, I don't know why that happened, but that's just how it is. But I didn't want to cancel this episode because there were so many gems of knowledge that were dropped by Fetti. So without further ado, the episode.
All right, I'll start with a question. Who is Fetti? And you take that.
That's a good question.
You take that question however you like.
That's a good question. I mean, I've written my eulogy before. So I've written how I'd want to be remembered when I'm dead. So I guess I could answer it from that perspective. I'd like to be remembered past my death by my family members, most importantly. So I want my grandchildren to know who I am, but I specifically want them to remember me as someone who is very strong, as someone who was capable of taking care of the ones that he loved, but also being remembered in a way that continues my legacy elsewhere. So I'd want to be on a history book at some point. It depends who's reading up on me. So maybe I might be seen as some evil dictator, horrible man by some. But I'd hope by the people that matter most to me, you know, the ummah and everything like that. I'm seen as someone who's progressed, progressed the ummah in some way. So,
wow.
To describe it, I can tell you some of the affirmations, I guess you could say, that I have, which is to be disciplined, to have soldier-like discipline specifically, to be all-loving, to be caring, and to do the things that please Allah. So I guess I see myself as someone who's striving towards those ideals as much as possible.
You said something. You said soldier-like strength. Why specifically soldier-like?
So soldier-like, or soldier-like discipline, soldier-like strength, soldier-like anything. Since I was a kid, I've been, I don't know why, I've been very much into kind of this idea of being a soldier, really, to be honest with you. I used to do like soldier crawls up until the age of 7. Whenever I would crawl around, I'd crawl around like a little soldier. I used to be obsessed with having like toy guns and being a toy, having like toy soldiers and things like that. I think it's just something that really resonates with me. I mean, from the introspection that I've done, I still can't tell you why, but I can definitely tell you that it resonates with me. Something about it feels right for me to say soldier-like. The idea of a soldier that I have is not, I hope for maybe other people, they hear soldier and it's a very scary thing, or someone who's maybe not as, you know, freedom fighting as they'd like to think. But for me, it's got a very positive mental image of a protector, of someone who works hard, someone who, you know, is doing it for something bigger than them. So that's why I say that.
No, it's really needed in these times, because I think a lot of the media is like pushing this, like you have to be soft, you have to be emotional. That's like what's being pushed to men these days, and I'm with you. I have that mentality as well, and I'm trying to teach my sons. I have 3 sons now that, you know, you got to be strong.
Inshallah.
You got to be strong, yeah. So I want to move to entrepreneurship, and even if there's any correlation between that, your soldier-like mentality, and how you got into entrepreneurship, or does that help? Does that mindset right now help, or is it something that
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely? I think if you were to study any sort of successful person in the world, not just in entrepreneurship, just in general life, maybe a general, a leader, anyone who's had some level of success has had to garner some level of discipline in their life. And they've definitely had to build it up. It's not something that you're born with. I think discipline, luckily for everyone, is a skill. It's not necessarily something you're born with.
Right.
You're not born with strong willpower. It's something that is a skill that you develop. But unfortunately, for many people, it's also a perishable skill. So you'll find yourself, after not being disciplined for a week, that it starts perishing and you start feeling worse and your discipline gets worse itself. And I think as an entrepreneur, the way I got into entrepreneurship in the first place really was through self-development. And I think everyone reaches that point of self-development when they start thinking to themselves, do you know what? I see myself being more independent with my finances, or I see myself providing more for my family. And then it kind of sinks in. You're like, hold on a second. I have to work a job for 30 years, be able to provide 6 figures a year for my family and take care of myself in the way I want to. I don't know if I can spend 30 years, working for someone else or being far away from family or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that at all. But for some people, it just comes up to that point where in their self-development journey, it's almost that fight for freedom, or kind of their own definition for freedom. That's how I got into entrepreneurship. I feel like if I didn't have the baseline of that discipline, it wouldn't have been something that entices me. I personally think discipline is very much linked to the willpower and to the will to live by extension, really.
So you got into entrepreneurship with this mindset. What was the first product you thought of to sell?
That's a good question. The first kind of business I started was I had this Fiverr, this Fiverr channel, this Fiverr page, where I was going to help young men and giving them like female advice, like how to deal with being rejected and things like that. Not necessarily how to attract females, but how to deal with all these things so they can focus on more important things.
Right.
It was me and my friend Louis that started it. I was in France at the time. And we created this whole Fiverr page. I was taking up emails from people. I was like looking them up online. I was trying to get at people's emails and sending it to them. And then we also tried to make a workout program together to sell on Fiverr. Mm-hmm. So at first it was just some random Fiverr gigs. Like I just thought, do you know what? Let me just start putting up random things. I tried to do affiliate marketing. When I say I tried, as in I tried for a week. So that lasted a week. And then I think it wasn't until I watched an Iman Gadji video, as many people will do as well and relate to that I found about SMMA. And I kind of looked into SMMA a bit more. And that's kind of, I'd say, the first proper thing that I got into. Everything else was kind of just me testing it out. But SMMA was the first proper thing that I got into.
I think entrepreneurs will go through these stages where they don't know what they want to sell, but they know they want to be an entrepreneur. And I'm sort of 100%. In that space now. I'm like with starting the YouTube thing, and we'll talk about your YouTube channel as well later. What does your business look like now compared to, you said you started with that fiber stuff? What does it look like now? And have you gotten any success compared to, I'm sure you've gotten some success compared to.
Yeah, I've had a decent amount of success, alhamdulillah. Actually, me and my business partner are releasing an offer today. That's very exciting.
Go ahead, plug it in.
Oh, it's fine. I won't necessarily plug in. It's just a really exciting offer that we have going on. And I think that's going to lead to somewhere new as well. The main thing that's kind of been the difference, I would say, Faisal, and I think you can relate to this as well. It's not necessarily a change in the business that's been successful. It's a change in me. Like my beliefs, my skills, and my traits are what have developed. And I think as a Muslim, these are really important for me because I think at the end of my life, and when Yawm al-Qiyamah comes, I'm not going to be judged on how much money I had. I'm going to be judged specifically on how I treated people, how I was as a Muslim, and then what kind of things I did with my finances, what kind of people I helped, who I helped, how I did it, etc., etc. So kind of improving my beliefs, traits, and skills are kind of the things that let you kind of go into anything and succeed. That's why we see so many entrepreneurs who are in their 30s and 40s who are able to grasp it straight away. For example, maybe they had a previous business, that business went bankrupt, but they suddenly become a millionaire 2 weeks later. The only reason they were able to do that wasn't because of the business model itself or anything like that. Is because of their beliefs, their skills, and their traits that they worked so hard to develop. I think we forget that we're developing ourselves in the process of building our business because we're the product of the business. Or the business is a product of us, I should say. It's a reflection of us. So if you have a failing business, you probably have a failing you. And that's okay. At the start, you're going to be failing, and that's okay. You have to get used to failing at the start. You have to be okay with failing at the start. Because nobody who's lost weight, for example, is going to tell you that at the start, I felt amazing. Right? If they're over like 150 pounds, or actually that's not that heavy in pounds, right? I was thinking 150 kilograms. But like 150 kilograms, Yeah, it's like if they're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm now 130 kilograms. Yeah, they lost 20 kilograms, but they still feel like absolute crap. It still hurts to walk. It's still painful to wake up in the morning. They still can't breathe properly. There's no fun in the beginning. And it doesn't have to be fun, I don't think. I think it's about building that kind of reality check of, in the future, I'll have everything I want, but I'm not going to have anything I want until I build everything I want. And that building process is what people either have to fall in love with and get used to it hurting, or they start hating and then they give up. I think that's where a lot of people end up living, I say quote unquote the mediocre life, but they end up living a life that they're okay with, is that they give up on that stick. They give up on that pain, and that they know they need to face to get to where they want to be.
I'm struggling a little bit with that myself, in terms of figuring out a business, because like you said, you have to work on yourself first. That you have to be, this is a concept that I've been learning more recently, is you have to build your brand first. People have to follow you, like the person that's creating, and then the product will follow, because then you build a community around you, and then the product they'll just flock to you, right? As they say. So, what do you think is the hardest part of being an entrepreneur so far? Hardest part. I know you talked about, hard. You have to enjoy the hardest part, especially in the beginning. But what's the hardest part so far in your entrepreneur career?
I think the hardest part is the friction. I think growth comes from friction in the first place, but there's no friction that's nice. Nobody says, "Oh, I burnt my skin today. I really enjoyed it." Right? Nothing nice comes from friction. I think the most important thing for me that I had to kind of deal with, I say deal with, not necessarily like it was a horrible thing, but like the most painful thing was always the work. It literally was always the work, because alhamdulillah, I cannot complain. I've got an amazing family. I've got amazing friends, right? My situation in terms of my health, alhamdulillah, as well. I wasn't born with any problems with health. I haven't got any kind of injuries or anything like that. So alhamdulillah, as a baseline, it's all good.
You've already won.
But the most painful thing was just doing the work.
Yeah.
And doing the work, I don't say that in terms of like a motivational way. Like, it's just when you know this thing is going to be painful, you know you're going to be rejected, you know you're not going to enjoy the process because it's just not fun at the beginning. Mm-hmm. The hardest thing is for you to just say to yourself, well, do you know what? I'm going to do it anyways. Like, I have to do this if I want the thing that I want. So as an entrepreneur, I think a lot of us, especially, to answer partly of your question earlier, Faisal, like, what would be the best business model to start, or what would kind of be the best thing an entrepreneur can do, is be honest with themselves. If you're an entrepreneur who's in their 20s or 30s, you have to look at yourself and be like, what skills have I developed over my life?
Right.
That's where I start, where I have an unfair advantage. If you're a teenager, you've got no unfair advantage. You've lived like 16, 17 years of your life. I think as a man, you're born at 18 years old. So if you start a business when you're 18 years old, you were technically just born. You're a baby, yeah. Right? So I think it's about looking at, what am I good at? Yeah. Then you start building a business around that. Then you become good at so many things that so many doors open for you, and you get to decide whatever. But at the beginning, you have to be honest with yourself. And that's where the pain comes in of the work. Like, I'm not good enough right now, but I want to be good enough. And the process of being good enough is not going to be fun. I think for me, the realization of I don't have to have fun probably killed my inner child in some way, right? Because entrepreneurship isn't supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to, life isn't supposed to be fun. Your parents made it fun by buying you toys. Your parents made it fun by giving you things that you wanted. But to be honest with you, I don't think childhood was necessarily fun 500, 600 years ago, right? Yeah. Like, what was the fun? You maybe didn't have as much responsibility, but probably by 6 years old, you were in the fields working with your dad.
Oh my, yeah.
Your dad was a farmer. So I think we've kind of got this skewed perception of what fun is, maybe. I'm not going to necessarily dive into that. I think it's just interesting to think about the work as a way to achieve something rather than a way for you to have fun in life. Because those years of fun are over. You had fun as a kid. Give your children the most fun they can have, and then teach them as they get older that the fun is over. And it's okay not to have fun, because the happiness, the fulfillment is going to come from achieving the things that you want.
I'm curious, when did you start your first business? The one you were talking about earlier, the Fiverr stuff.
2 years ago.
2 years ago?
I'd say it's almost exactly 2 years ago, almost. Yeah.
and you've learned a lot along the way. If you had,
Yeah.
if you had to go back and tell young Fedi 2 years ago, I'm sure you felt, even if it's just 2 years ago, I'm sure with all the experience you've had, you feel like he was a baby. You're probably thinking he was a baby. So if you had to go back,
100%.
what would you tell him to do differently, and for him to succeed faster? For him to succeed faster, because of what you know now, the knowledge that you have now.
Awesome. I think I want to make a key point, Faisal, without bigging myself up too much. I don't want anyone to think I'm trying to fuel my ego. I'm a sponge for information. I learn and apply things very, very quickly. I know people who've been in entrepreneurship for 2 years and haven't made a single bit of progress. I also know people in entrepreneurship who after a year have made so much more progress than I have. I think a key thing would be to realize your strengths and weaknesses in this way, but also start looking at yourself as a video game character. You can change exactly who you want to be. And that's what I would say to past Fedi. I'd say, look, you right now might think you're a certain way. You can be however you want to be. You're good at soaking up information. You're good at applying information. You're good at reflecting on that information and then, you know, reiterating your actions again and again and again. But the ideas of yourself that you have, you're going to completely change. That's what I would tell him. I'd warn him and I'd tell him, start changing now. Don't look at yourself as the person who got, I don't know, I got 4 A's. That won't necessarily mean much in like Canada and things like that, but like I got 4 A's in my exams in the UK. I saw myself as someone who could be a high achiever when it came to school, but I'd never done anything with entrepreneurship before. So I had attached my identity to this student persona.
A student.
What I would say to Fedi is just be whatever persona you want to have. And you just develop those skills along the way. So attach yourself to a certain persona and don't settle for the past Fedi in any way. Because the past Fedi might have done something good, but future Fedi is going to do something greater. So it's kind of that idea of allow yourself to be who you need to be. Don't attach yourself to who you are or who people tell you are.
Two things there. I really love the video game idea. That always resonates with me because I think most boys were gamers growing up.
100%.
Yeah, so it just resonates with you. It's just getting skills, acquiring like different level. You're leveling up. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing was, what was the second thing? What was the second?
Around identity, maybe?
Yes, that was it. It's this is something that really helped me when I as I'm going into entrepreneurship now and YouTubing, is actually looking at your identity as this is you now. This is not gonna happen in the future. This is your persona now. This is your identity now. So you have to do those actions now. You can't just wait before you get to that point. You have to do the actions that future Faisal is doing for you to get there. And you can't worry about what's past Faisal is doing because he's not successful right now. So yeah, I love those both of those concepts. With your company now and your entrepreneurship, do you use any metrics? Do you track any metrics as far as successes and failures, or are you just like, okay, right now I'm not at that point, I'm not tracking any metrics?
Oh, I'm always tracking metrics. I think the metrics I most importantly track are my metrics. I journal every day to understand how I feel, and then I give myself what I'm grateful for what Allah has given me. I track my metrics, as you can probably see behind me there on that sheet of paper, seeing the actions I'm doing every day, tracking how they're going and everything like that. So I think most importantly, I track my metrics, and I've tracked my metrics for a long time because I realized that, as I said, the business is a reflection of me. If I'm not on top of things, my business cannot be on top of things at all. I think each business has important metrics to track. To be honest with you, Faisal, I think, for example, if people are in the service-based business, if you're offering any sort of service at all, you've got 4 metrics to be looking at. You have traffic, you've got conversion, and you have retention, and then maybe you've got something else, right? Maybe you've got the sales process or things like that. But the most important ones are going to be traffic, conversion, so how many people you convert, and then the retention, how many people you're able to retain on a monthly retainer basis. Maybe if you've got an online store, it's going to be traffic. It's going to be how many visitors you have. Obviously, that's part of traffic really, but it's going to be looking at kind of the conversion rates on that, and then how many sales you have. So for each business, there's going to be 3, 4, maybe even 5 points of data that you're going to be looking at, 5 metrics. I think it's incredibly important to track them. I think it's not because it's a great business thing. I think it's also a great psychology thing. In psychology, they say you cannot change a behavior that you're not aware of. If you're unaware that you bite your nails, you will not stop biting your nails. If it's an unconscious behavior and you don't become aware of it, you'll never stop biting your nails. I think it's the same with business-wise. If you're not even aware of how much money you make, even if it's zero, like if you say to yourself, and that's why at the start it's a bit painful. Like you have to just say, cool, I'm making zero, but I'm going to get in the habit of tracking this metric because I'm going to see it grow at some point. It's not like I can go below zero,
Yeah.
right? And the other metrics, such as the amount of sales you have, at the start it's going to be zero. But how are you going to feel when that first one sale comes through? And then you see that metric for how much money you're making go up again. Like all these things are going to be fueling kind of this idea of improvement because behavior and circumstances change based on measurement. And we see this in physics as well. It's not just psychology. We see it in physics. If you're not measuring something, you're not going to be able to see how it changes. Atoms, literally, I don't think it's atoms. I think it's electrons. Electrons literally behave differently when we observe them. They literally behave differently when we observe them. When we don't observe them, they behave a different way to when we do observe them, which is incredibly fascinating to think about. And I remember asking the question, I was like, well, how do we know they behave differently originally if we couldn't observe them? And I can't remember the answer to that, but it was a very smart physicist who gave me the rebuttal. So if anyone is thinking that, don't ask me. I'm not going to be able to tell you the answer. You're going to have to look it up yourself. I just want to make that clear.
Do you have, I know most entrepreneurs, they have mentors. Do you have one? And if yes, what's the best advice that he or she, I hope in he,
I think
received?
it would definitely be a he, obviously, as a Muslim. I don't necessarily have any female mentors, but I think, actually, you know what? I'd count my mum as a mentor in some places.
Oh, okay.
I think you'd have mentors for different things. I think you've got three types of mentors. You got the mentors that you pay for. You got the mentors that take you under their wing without you paying them, and you got the mentors that they don't know you.
Yeah.
Right? It's just people that you look up to that you try and kind of, what's the word, emulate, right? So for example, if you've never met Alex Hormozi in your life, but you kind of see him as your mentor and you look up to him, then obviously you're going to kind of emulate Alex Hormozi. He's your mentor in some fashion, but he doesn't know who you are. He doesn't talk to you or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I'd go on those three things. I'd say first one, my mentor in terms of in person that's taken me out of their wing. You know what? I'd go with my mum. I think the best thing my mum has said is, actually, do you know what, Faisal? I think I've got it in my notes app. So bear with me 1 second.
I need to hear Auntie's quote.
There you go. This is what she said. She said, you want too many things too quickly. That's it. You want too many things too quickly. And I know at some points when my ego gets in the way, I think she doesn't know what she's talking about. I don't want too many things too quickly.
Yeah.
I'm ambitious. She doesn't get it. I think when I reflected properly on it, you want too many things too quickly. It's more so about rushing the process.
That's it.
You want too many things too quickly. It means you're not enjoying the things you're currently doing. And if you look at it as kind of a 5-step process, let's say, right? You want all 5 steps to be finished. Obviously, if you want all 5 steps to be finished, you can't enjoy step 1, you can't enjoy step 2, you can't enjoy step 3, you can't enjoy step 4, you can't enjoy step 5. You just want all of them at once. And maybe you do get successful at the end of doing all of them, but you didn't enjoy the process at all. And my mum's quite a bit older than me. She's 40 years older than me, actually. And by looking at that, obviously she's 60, right?
Yeah.
You can have to appreciate some of the wisdom in the fact that she's lived 60 years of her life, probably realizing that she doesn't even remember 20 of those years. Or she can't tell you what happened every day of those 20 years. Like if I was to ask you, Faisal, like from 1 month ago, describe to me the 30 days of September. You'd struggle to tell me what happened on each and every single day. You'd probably remember 2 or 3 things from that month, but that's it.
You'd have to think really deeply though.
Really hard.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that's the thing that I would say, my best quote from my mum.
You want too many things too quickly. I like that. Yeah.
You want too many things too quickly.
What I got from that is more, you're not thinking about the work that it takes to get there. That's what I got from that. You want it now.
I mean, I'm glad you interpreted it that way.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I hope anyone who's listening interpret it your own way as well. The way I've kind of interpreted it was I'm missing everything and I want to jump to the conclusion rather than enjoying the process. With the mentors that I've paid for, the thing they've said to me is model what's working. And this is, as you can tell, this is an entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurial one. Mm-hmm. Model what's working doesn't mean just copy and paste. It means look at what's working. Don't try and reinvent the wheel, which hurts our ego because we think we're special. We think we're going to create something completely new, something completely unique. I don't think anything has been unique since Adam alayhi salam has come down to earth.
Yeah.
He's probably thought the exact same things as us, just in different ways. Maybe he didn't think, oh my days, my laptop isn't charging, right? Because Adam alayhi salam probably did not have a laptop. But there's definitely these thoughts of frustration, the same emotions and everything like that.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any kind of original thoughts or any original ideas, really.
It's just restructuring.
So model what's
ideas.
working. Exactly. Model what's working. Put your ego aside, see what other people are doing successfully, and try and model them. And if you can't model them, this is something else I heard, which is amazing. If you can't model them, do the opposite of what's failing. Because failure is all around you. And this sounds incredibly harsh to say, but if you go down to your local grocery store and you see the 40-year-old cashier, maybe you think to yourself, I don't want to be a cashier at 40 years old. So what do? You do the opposite of what that person does. Maybe they're very grumpy, right? If they're very grumpy, think to yourself, okay, maybe being grumpy has something to do with where they've ended up. So I'm going to try and not be grumpy. When you walk over everywhere in your life, look at people you want to model and look at people you want to do the opposite of. I think that's something that my mentors have said. Well, what do you think of that, Faisal? I think that one can be quite controversial for some people.
Which one? Do the opposite?
Doing the opposite of what you deem as unsuccessful people.
I don't think it's controversial. I think it makes sense to me. Like if something is failing, then you do the opposite to succeed. It's just, to me, it makes sense. So I don't think it. Why do you think that would be controversial? I'm curious. Why? Yeah.
I think people romanticize the journey that they have. I think they think things happen against them. They almost see themselves as this person who's fighting against the world, fighting against fate. It's as if fate has already predetermined their failure. And obviously I believe in predeterminism, right? It's one of the things we believe in Islam.
Yeah.
But there's a reason we have du'as, there's a reason we have free will, which is to be able to, without going too theological, if Allah is infinite, he can see infinite possibilities for infinite things. So your choice is to decide which infinite possibility that Allah has created you end up going down. Either way, he knows what's going to happen. He's got infinite potential of everything.
All the possibilities.
So, exactly. It's not like you're contradicting that.
Yeah.
But I think they really romanticize that journey and they think themselves as victims almost. And what can you tell a victim? You're going to tell a victim, well, I want to do the opposite of what you did. They'll be like, well, you can't do the opposite of what I did because I didn't control this. This is just the way life was given to me. When in reality, they are fully in control. So that's why I say it's controversial. I don't mean they're right or like someone's got a very worthy opinion. I just mean some people might disagree. Everyone has a choice in their life.
Now. I can see that now because there are a lot of people that think this way as a victim mentality. And it's just like, and for me, it's like, you just have to do the work. It's almost, I'm not going to say guaranteed because nothing is guaranteed, but it's very close to guaranteed. If you just do the work, it's very close to guaranteed. So yeah, I want to jump into your YouTube stuff.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I just checked your channel before we jumped on, and you have almost 16K subscribers now. That's
Alhamdulillah.
The first time I think I reached out to you 2 weeks ago, and I think it was about 7 or 8K. So what's been the key to this growth? That's like 8K, mashallah, 8K in like 2 weeks. What's been the key, you think?
Model what works. Model what works. I'm not unique. I don't think I'm unique. I don't think I've got some exceptional ideas. I don't think I'm some genius that's come to revolutionize everything. I don't think the algorithm has favored me. Mm-hmm. I think Allah has guided me to make certain decisions, and from those decisions I've either been rewarded or punished. And I think by modeling what works, I can take the genius of other people, because I'm no genius. Mm-hmm. I can take the genius of other people and then apply it to my own style, apply it to my own way of doing things. I think honestly, I cannot take loads of credit for this and be like, oh yeah, so basically, Faisal, this is what you do, and you pay for my $9.97 course, and then you DM me and I'll send you an excuse. Like, it's all just, alhamdulillah, I modeled what worked. Mm-hmm. I listened to what other people said. And like you said, I did the work that I needed to do. And inshallah, as I continue doing the work, I continue improving upon the work, because there's quality and quantity. I think it's only up from here, inshallah. If that's what's meant to be, it'll be only up from here.
You mentioned the work, just doing the work. What does your process look like now when you're doing content creation for YouTube? Do you script write at all, or what's your process right now?
Very good question. Very good question. I would share. Actually, do you know what? So as you can see, this is my YouTube ideas folder. So what I do is I go through my recommended. By the way, I do not watch YouTube as a little thing. I think if you are doing YouTube, maybe you should watch a video every once in a while. But I don't watch YouTube. I just go through, I see what popular videos are in my niche, and I screenshot them. I'll give a quick example. I don't know if it'll open in this tab, but for example, I don't know if you can see it. Let me quickly see if I can reshare. You can see it properly. The example that I'll give. Here it is. For example, if I take this one and ask to make a video on productivity, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. The most underrated productivity hack and how I use it. And it's them highlighting Google Calendar. This, question mark. Now guess what my thumbnail is going to be? It could be Notion. It could be Google Calendar. Right? Guess what my title is going to be? Exactly this.
Yeah.
Right? My thumbnail and title are going to be basically the same. Except, this is the key thing, I will not make the same video. This is why I say I don't watch the videos themselves, because I think they'll create a bias for me to make a video that's too similar. I will spend 10, 15, 20 minutes coming up with an idea that I think is interesting that fits the title and thumbnail. So to go over kind of like a framework, I find something that works, I come up with an idea, I create the thumbnail and title, and then I script the video. So from that, I kind of have a little bit more figured out straight away, right? And when I script the video, I spend the most time on the hook. I think I can kind of rely on myself to come up with the ideas for the video as I kind of go along. So I put bullet points, but I spend at least half an hour on the hook. I rewrite the hook multiple times. Do you know what? Let me see if I can find an example very quickly. This piece of paper right here, that's one video and that's one hook written again and again.
Wow, handwritten too, huh?
Handwritten just because it helps me think easier.
Yeah.
And then as you can see from this hook here, it's still not even finished. I'm not very happy with this hook, so I'm still rewriting it.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have a pretty, we have a pretty similar, I do it all in Notion. I just like look at all these videos that I think are interesting that can be recycled, I guess, into your own brand. So we have something similar.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I put it on Notion. But you think the hook, like I guess you spend a lot of, you said most of your time on the hook. Wow. Do you get any ideas from, you said you don't watch any YouTube videos, so you don't really, it's just from your brain.
If you watch, if you watch the first 30 seconds of the video, you get a pretty good idea of the hook. So for example, the video that I showed you, the productivity one, if you were to watch the first 30 seconds of that video, you get a pretty good idea of why the video did well. The hook was good, so you might as well copy the hook. That's absolutely fine as well. Copy the hook. Not necessarily word for word, but you can copy the hook.
Yeah.
What I find works best for me is the hook that Alex Hormozy talks about, which is give yourself proof, the promise of the video, and the plan on how you deliver that promise. So proof of why you know what you're talking about. And some people say, well, Fedi, I want to talk about this thing, but I'm not an expert. Well, you don't have to be an expert, but you at least have to put the reps in. Does that make sense? Like if you talk about psychology, you don't have to be a psychologist. But if you've never read a book on psychology, then obviously don't open up your mouth and talk about psychology because you clearly know nothing. But if you've read the book, if you've maybe even just watched a couple videos, if you have some level of what I call reps in, like the reps in the tank, right? Like how many reps you've got in the tank of knowledge, then you can talk about the thing.
Yeah.
Preferably you would have achieved the thing. Preferably you are a psychologist. You don't have to be a psychologist to make a video on psychology. As long as you've understood, you've put in the reps of things. So that's the proof. The promise is what you'd want them to achieve by the end of the video. So proof, I don't know, I started 3 businesses since I was an entrepreneur. 2 of them failed, and the last one that I've done has been very successful. These are the lessons you should be avoiding. So that's the promise. The plan. These are the 3 lessons you should be avoiding. And then the promise, so that you end up having your first business be a success. So proof, promise, plan. You can change the plan and the promise around. So maybe you say the plan first and the promise. But I'd always have the proof first. Always have the proof first, because then people trust you straight away.
I like, so you don't really watch a lot of YouTube videos, but I like, do you know Ali Abdaal?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, he's a productivity guy. I like his idea of thinking more of a guy, thinking more of yourself as a guide than a guru. Like a guru will basically just tell you what to do, but a guide is like, here's what I did, and maybe it'll work for you, and maybe it won't, but this is what I did. So that, I think that's helped me a lot to just not think I'm not an expert, but this is what I did. This is, hopefully it will work for you, but if it won't, that's it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You mentioned that you look at metrics for your business. Do you look at the analytics at all on YouTube, or not at all?
Unless they change my decision making, nothing is worth looking unless it will change my behavior, in my opinion. So, for example, the metrics on YouTube, if I'm just going to watch a video, do well or do badly, I don't think it matters to me. I think there are metrics that show that video is doing well or doing badly. But at the end of the week, I'll look at the metrics of the video. I'll see, okay, this one didn't do so well on the click-through rate. So what do I need to improve? My thumbnail and title. That's only used to change the decision I make for the next video. It's never used as like a, oh no, my goodness, this one increased by this one. Everything I have to do, everything I have to look at in terms of metrics is there to inform my decision, not to fuel my ego. That's the way I would say, even to you, Faisal, how you be like, inshallah, when you start having thousands of podcast listeners, and then one day one episode dips to 100 podcast listeners, you might be like, well, what the heck is going on? Why did I go from 1,000 last week and now I've only got 100? Well, what's changed? How is your process going to change? How is your behavior going to change? There's no point in looking at it just to be like, oh, I did well or oh, I did badly. It's, oh, I did well or badly. Okay, what's going to change next time? What can I do more of, or what can I do less of?
Right. Just use it as a guide and not use it as an ego feeder, basically.
Exactly.
Last question on the YouTube thing. For someone that might be thinking about starting a YouTube channel, what advice would you give them, especially with your seemingly your growth? Like, it's pretty fast now, mashallah. So what would you give them?
I'd say live first so you can give value. The reason I say that is because if you want to have exponential success on YouTube, you want to be living. You want to be an interesting person. You want to have things that you're doing in your day-to-day life. I see a lot of 16, 17, 18-year-olds start YouTube channels and they're just regurgitating what they hear online. You ask them, for example, they might give you, I don't know, how to have a successful relationship, but they're not married. They don't know what a successful long-term relationship is. So yeah, you could take their advice because it might be good advice because they heard it from someone who is married and who has a successful relationship. But again, what's the value in that? It's you regurgitating information. Everyone, I think, should be living first and doing YouTube second. What that means is live your life as it is. Do the things you are pursuing, do the things you want to do. And when it comes to YouTube, almost document your process. Document the things that you've learned. Document the value that you've learned. And do it from a way of, this is how I did it. This is how I lived my life. Not, this is how you should be doing it. This is what I learned from this guy, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't want it to be like a pyramid where it's just this guru who has loads of viewers and then these viewers just repeat what they're saying. It's individuals creating almost their own chains and own links of knowledge. And yeah, I'd definitely say live first, document your life in a way that is really interesting for people. So do interesting things. Like if you're going to tell me I spent 12 hours in my room working, I'll be like, oh, that's quite interesting. And you'll be like, yeah, I just did the same thing for 12 hours. I'll be like, okay, well, that's a bit boring. But if you then made it about discipline and you made it about, your journey of doing this in the first place, maybe 3 months ago, you could only do 60 minutes and now you're doing 12 hours. Yeah. Well, that's bloody valuable. That's going to teach me something, right? Same with people who go to the gym. I think, I know you like working out as well. It's like people who go to the gym, everybody can just repeat the same information to you, right? Yeah. Work out hard, progressively overload, and try and recover. But if someone tells you, I used to be able to have terrible sleep, I would not be able to sleep properly, and I knew this was affecting my recovery at the gym, but then I tried to do this thing and it helped me sleep quicker. The guy doesn't have to be exceptionally big. He doesn't have to be an IFBB pro. He doesn't have to be a pro bodybuilder in any way, right? But because he lived, he reflected and learned from his life, and then he documented it for people.
That's where valuable. The value is. Yeah, that's where the value is.
And that's how you do well on YouTube.
Last question for you before I let you go.
Awesome.
Outside of business and YouTube and all the deep work you're doing, what do you do for fun? I know you like to work out. It's more of a personal question.
I like to work out. I like to watch movies. Inshallah, I'll be getting married soon, so I enjoy learning things about relationships, being more patient, and all that good jazz. I like reading a lot, but I don't like when I say I like reading. I don't I don't read for like 3 hours a day. Whatever I'm curious about, I like to go to books first. When I say I like reading, is in like my curiosity is driven towards books rather than towards videos or things like that. So I like to just pick up a random book about a topic that's interesting to me, read a couple chapters, and then drop the book and go back to it in 6 months' time. I'm very curiosity driven when it comes to reading books. I'd say movies, books, going to the gym, learning about things, you know, when it comes to marriage things and trying to be that, like doing the best I can do. Obviously Islam, obviously that goes without saying. I'm trying to learn as much as that. I wouldn't say, I used to game a lot. I would have said back then, like 3 or 4 years ago before I became an entrepreneur, I would have said gaming.
Yeah.
I think when I look back at it now, I did not have fun gaming, because when I look at myself for the screen, when the game is loading, you know, you get like the black screen when the game's loading.
Yeah.
I'd look at myself and there was not a single smile.
You're just
I'm
waiting.
just there like,
Yeah.
I'm brain dead.
That is so
I'd say-
true. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't
I feel
think
like
about that.
a lot of things I've learned from that, to be honest, about what is fun and what is not fun. I don't live near my best friends, but usually I would 100% go out with my best friends. We'll play some football. We'll play some mini golf. We'll do loads of random things together. We also like to play Monopoly and board games. So on the more nerdy side, I love to play board games with my best friends. All of that good stuff. I think there's the social aspect, which I don't have as much now that I'm living far away again. But in general, I'm still loving every second, alhamdulillah.
Fedi, Habibi, thank you. Thank you again for joining my show. You dropped so many
worries,
gems,
thank you.
so many gems of knowledge on this show. So hopefully I can get you back again sometime.
Inshallah, I look back to being invited in a year or two and having millions of viewers this time.
Inshallah, Habibi.
And I'll be plugging in my stuff.
Yes.
No,
All right, Habibi. I'll see you soon, okay?
Inshallah,
Ma'as salama.
Faisal. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.